before BMW was about luxury and performance, it was about flight. This episode traces a century of reinvention, from airplane engines and stripped-down motorcycles to daring small cars that saved a company. Expect engines, war, near collapse, and the little machines that made BMW what it is today. BMW's roots start with two names you might not expect: Karl Rapp and Gustav Otto. In the 1910s, Europe needed aircraft engines, and both men were building advanced power plants. Gustav Otto ran Flugmaschinenfabrik Gustav Otto. Karl Rapp headed Rapp Motorenwerke. Government consolidation during World War I reshaped those companies. In 1916, Bayerische Flugzeugwerke, or BFW, was founded at Munich's Oberwiesenfeld airfield. 1 year later, Rapp's business was renamed Bayerische Motorenwerke GmbH, and by 1918 it became a public company. In 1922, BMW AG transferred its engine construction, its name, and its emblem into BFW. That's why BMW counts March 7, 1916, the founding of BFW, as its official birthday. The roundel with Bavaria's blue and white appeared in 1917. Advertising soon reimagined it as a spinning propeller, a symbol that connected BMW to aviation and stuck in the brand's DNA. But after World War I, Germany's restrictions on aircraft manufacture forced BMW to pivot. The company turned to railway brakes, industrial engines, and other mechanical products. Through reshuffles and acquisitions, the workforce, tooling and brand elements all landed in Munich's Oberwiesenfeld, the same site that remains BMW's global headquarters today. In 1923, BMW reinvented itself on two wheels. At the Berlin Motor Show, the company unveiled the R32, a motorcycle that completely redefined expectations. Designed by Max Friis, it introduced a boxer engine with cylinders mounted sideways, plus a shaft drive instead of a chain. Riders immediately noticed how durable and easy to service it was. The shaft drive meant less maintenance, and the flat twin delivered smooth, reliable power. Everything about the R32 felt engineered to last. This bike set the template for BMW motorcycles for decades to come. Boxer engines and shaft drives became the brand's signature, a DNA you can still see today. The R32 wasn't just a product. It was a milestone in motorcycle history that proved BMW could do more than airplanes. They could master the road. By the late 1920s, BMW was ready to build cars. In 1928, they purchased Fahrzeugfabrik Eisenach, and with it, the license to produce the tiny Austin 7. BMW rebadged it as the Dixie, their very first automobile. Soon after, BMW started creating their own designs. The 303 sedan arrived in 1933. The first BMW with a 6-cylinder engine, and the first to wear the now famous kidney grille. It was a symbol that the company had real ambitions in the car world. Sporty models followed quickly. The nimble 315 Roadster and then the 328 in 1936. Light, fast, and beautifully engineered, the 328 became a racing legend, winning at the Nürburgring and the Mille Miglia and proving BMW could compete with the very best. As the 1930s wore on, BMW's story took a darker turn. Germany's rearmament shifted the company away from road cars and motorcycles and deep into aircraft engines. Massive factories were built, like the one at Allach, to meet the demands of the war economy. During World War II, BMW became a major supplier of engines for the Luftwaffe. Cars and motorcycles still existed, but they were a small part of the business. When the war ended, the consequences were severe. Allied forces occupied BMW's plants, stripped out machinery as reparations, and dismantled equipment. What had been vast industrial sites were left gutted, the company's future looked uncertain, and survival would take an entirely new beginning. After the devastation of the war, BMW needed something simple to rebuild. The answer came in 1948 with the R24, their first new motorcycle of the post-war era. It was based on the pre-war R23, but refined. A single-cylinder engine, shaft drive, and rugged frame made it cheap to run and easy to maintain at a time when Germany desperately needed affordable transport. Production was delayed by shortages and missing machinery, but once it got going, the R24 became a hit. In 1949 alone, BMW sold more than 9,000 units. That success proved the company still had its engineering magic. The R24 didn't just bring in money, it restored confidence that BMW could survive and eventually thrive in a world no longer defined by war. In 1952, BMW returned to automobiles with the 501, a large, elegant luxury saloon. Powered by an improved version of their pre-war six-cylinder engine, the 501 could seat 6 in comfort. It was a car meant to re-establish BMW's place in the premium market. But high costs and limited demand meant the 501 never became a big seller. Still, it signaled that BMW was back in the car business. By the late 1950s, BMW faced collapsing sales and mounting financial trouble. Salvation came in the unlikeliest form, the tiny BMW Isetta. In 1955, BMW licensed the bubble car design from Italy's Esso, then re-engineered it with their own 250 cubic centimeter motorcycle engine. The result was cheap to buy, cheap to run, and perfect for a country still rebuilding. Its front-opening door and egg-shaped body made it instantly recognizable. Families squeezed in, students zipped through city streets, and suddenly BMW had a bestseller. The Isetta wasn't glamorous, but it sold in huge numbers and kept the lights on. More importantly, it rebuilt goodwill with buyers and proved BMW could adapt. Without this quirky little microcar, the company might not have survived the 1950s. By 1959, BMW was on the brink. Sales were weak, debts were rising, and Daimler-Benz offered to take over. At the tense December shareholders meeting, collapse seemed certain. But small investors and workers refused to give in, voting the deal down. That stand gave industrialist Herbert Quandt the confidence to increase his stake. With his money, government support and a leaner strategy, BMW pulled back from disaster. Quandt's gamble kept the company independent, a turning point that set the stage for everything to come. The real comeback arrived in 1961 with the Neue Klasse, the new class of sporty sedans that redefined BMW. It began with the BMW 1500 shown at the Frankfurt Motor Show. Designed by Wilhelm Hofmeister with styling input from Giovanni Michelotti, the car introduced clean lines, a modern cabin, and the Hofmeister kink at the rear window. A design cue that still defines BMW today. Under the skin sat the brand new M10 4-cylinder engine. Over-square and incredibly robust, it delivered smooth power and became the backbone of BMW's lineup for decades. Independent suspension and disc brakes gave the 1500 handling far sharper than rivals in its class. Demand was immediate. Orders poured in faster than BMW could build them. The lineup expanded quickly. 1600s, 1800s and hotter twin-carb versions, each reinforcing the formula. Practical size, modern engineering and a sporty edge. The Neue Klasse didn't just save BMW financially. It created the template for the modern sports sedan. Its DNA carried straight into the next generation, including the 02 series, and cemented BMW's reputation worldwide. By the late 1960s, BMW had distilled the Neue Klasse formula into something even more focused, the BMW 2002. Compact, light and powered by a 2-liter version of the M10, the 2002 had sharp steering, a short wheelbase and an engine that loved to rev. On twisting mountain roads it felt alive, eager in the corners, quick to respond and genuinely fun to drive. The 2002 became the blueprint for the modern sports sedan. It wasn't just transportation, it was a driver's car, a machine that made everyday roads feel like racetracks. In the city, the BMW 2002 was just as special. Its compact size made parking easy, its lively engine kept traffic entertaining, and the cabin had real space for everyday use. It turned commuting into something more, proof that even a practical car could feel exciting. The BMW 2002 wasn't just a fun street car, it proved itself on the track. Thanks to its light weight, sharp handling and tunable M10 engine, the 2002 became a favorite among privateers and club racers. It was affordable to modify, durable under stress and competitive against much larger rivals. Twin-carb and TII versions added more power, and soon the 2002 was taking podiums in touring car events across Europe. In 1973, BMW even launched the 2002 Turbo, one of the very first turbocharged production cars in Europe, and a sign of the company's bold engineering spirit. On circuits from the Nürburgring to smaller national series, the 2002 earned a reputation as a giant killer. It blended agility, strength and personality, proving that a compact sedan could win races and capture hearts. This motorsport legacy set the stage for BMW's future dominance, laying the groundwork for the M division and the performance culture that would define the brand in the decades ahead. The BMW 2002 drove off into history, a symbol of survival and reinvention.
After the 2002, BMW stood at a crossroads. Could it grow without losing the sharp driver-first DNA? This next chapter shows how the company built the 3 Series identity, launched new luxury lines, and proved itself in motorsport. From sedans to supercars, from the street to the track, BMW was stepping into a new era. The E21 was the beginning of a dynasty. Introduced in 1975, it carried forward the lessons of the 2002, but reimagined them for a new decade. This was the first official 3 Series, the backbone of BMW's future. The design was modern and clean, with sharper lines and a cabin focused entirely on the driver. Under the skin, the E21 balanced efficiency with engagement. 4-cylinder engines remained the entry point, but BMW offered 6-cylinder options that gave the small sedan unusual refinement. Chassis tuning made the car agile without punishing comfort. It was practical, but every control reminded you it was a driver's car. The E21 also established a pattern, variants for every need. From base sedans to performance-trimmed editions, the 3 Series became a flexible platform. For many buyers it was the attainable dream, a car with enough prestige to impress, but affordable enough to aspire to. That mix turned the E21 into a success across Europe and abroad. More than just sales, the E21 proved BMW's formula worked. Compact size, rear-wheel drive, responsive engines and ergonomics that wrapped around the driver. It was a living bridge between the lightweight 2002 and the future generations that would dominate the sports sedan market. The 3 Series identity was born. While the 3 Series became BMW's volume hero, Another model line was quietly laying the foundation for BMW's move upmarket. This was the beginning of the 5 Series, the E12. The E12, launched in 1972, was the very first 5 Series. Designed by Paul Bracq, it introduced clear, modern lines and larger proportions, targeting business buyers who wanted sport and status in one package. The E12 offered both 4- and 6-cylinder engines, all tuned with a familiar BMW emphasis on responsiveness. Inside, it featured better materials, more space, and a more formal presence. The E12 wasn't just another car. It signaled BMW's intent to challenge established executive sedans. For drivers, it delivered sportiness that rivals lacked. For the company, it cemented a ladder: the 3 Series as compact, the 5 Series as executive, and bigger things still to come. In 1976, BMW added style and luxury with the E24, the very first 6 Series. This was a grand touring coupe with long, elegant proportions and a driver-focused cockpit. Under the hood, straight 6 engines gave it smooth, commanding performance. The E24 was equally at home on the Autobahn or parked in front of a hotel. It added glamour to the BMW range, showing the brand could mix performance with real presence. The 6 Series was aspirational, and it expanded BMW's reach into luxury. Just 1 year later, in 1977, BMW launched the E23, the very first 7 Series. This was BMW stepping boldly into flagship territory. The E23 emphasized luxury, safety, and advanced technology. It was among the first cars in the world to offer an onboard computer, service interval indicators, and sophisticated climate control. Engines ranged up to smooth, powerful straight 6s. With the 7 Series, BMW now had a true top-of-the-line sedan and proved that the company could play in the executive league. By the late 70s, BMW had built a complete lineup. A full family, unified by performance and design DNA. In parallel with expanding the lineup, BMW doubled down on motorsport. In 1972, the company created BMW Motorsport GmbH, a division dedicated entirely to racing and high-performance development. This move formalized BMW's racing ambitions. The most daring project was the M1, a mid-engine supercar built for homologation and competition. Launched in 1978, the M1 was exotic, with a Giugiaro-designed body and a purpose-built straight-6 engine. Though production numbers were low, the car's existence was a bold statement. BMW could build a purebred sports car to challenge the best in the world. The M1 also spawned the Pro Car Championship, where Formula One drivers raced identical M1s in support events. It gave the car instant credibility, even if it was short-lived. More importantly, the M1 pushed BMW engineers to master advanced chassis design, aerodynamics, and high-output engines. Those lessons would trickle down into mainstream models. Motorsport GmbH wasn't just about one car. It became a laboratory where racing technology met road car development. The M1 proved BMW could engineer at the highest level. And Motorsport GmbH set the stage for something even bigger. A dedicated M sub-brand that would bring track performance to the street. From the rare M1 to the cars everyone could buy, the next step was the E30. The second generation 3 Series, the E30, arrived in the early 1980s and quickly became the definitive sports sedan. Offered in coupe, sedan, convertible and touring forms, it was versatile, yet consistent in character. The E30 sharpened the formula. Tighter steering, more rigid body structure, and improved suspension gave it precision. Engines range from efficient 4 cylinders to silky 6s. buyers could tailor the car. Practical or playful, economical or indulgent. Whatever the spec, it still felt distinctly BMW. The E30 also reflected the 80s design language. Boxy but clean, with crisp edges and proportions that still look right today. Inside, the driver-focused dashboard remained, but with improved ergonomics and materials. It was a car that looked modern, felt modern, and drove like a dream. For enthusiasts, the E30 became a canvas. Tuners and racers flocked to it. Privateers found the chassis responsive and reliable, while families appreciated its everyday usability. This duality, everyday car meets enthusiast tool, made the E30 a global success and a cultural phenomenon. It cemented the 3 Series as the benchmark sports sedan of its generation. The highlight of the E30 era was the M3. Built for Group A touring car rules, it was engineered with racing first in mind. The body was reshaped with flared arches, a deeper front spoiler, and aerodynamic tweaks. Underneath, suspension geometry was revised for razor-sharp handling. On the track, the E30 M3 was unstoppable. It dominated touring car championships, taking wins across Europe and beyond. Drivers praised its balance and predictability. Engineers loved its tuning flexibility. The car became synonymous with touring car success, a benchmark for rivals and a trophy magnet for BMW. The M3 proved that BMW could build a world-beating race car that doubled as a road car. It wasn't just a marketing exercise, it was genuine motorsport DNA, homologated for the street. Off the circuit, the E30 M3 became a cult hero. Enthusiasts embraced it as the ultimate driver's car. Its high-revving 4-cylinder engine demanded involvement, and its chassis rewarded skill. Owners loved how it turned every drive into an event. The M3 also shaped tuning culture. Aftermarket companies built upgrades, track day drivers modified them, and fans formed communities around them. It wasn't just a car, it was a lifestyle object that bonded owners together. In the 80s, the M3 carried cultural weight. It appeared in magazines, posters, and even video games. For a generation, it represented performance purity: small, light, balanced, and competitive. Many still see it as the best M3 ever made. The legend of the M3 was written on track, but it lived in garages, clubs, and car meets around the world. Previously, BMW had risen from wartime rubble to reclaim its place as a global symbol of performance and precision. From the humble 2002 to the rebirth of the ultimate driving machine, the stage was set for something bigger. This is where BMW goes global. The late 1980s, BMW was no longer the scrappy post-war survivor. It was an engineering powerhouse. The new E32 7 Series stood as proof. BMW dared to install a 12-cylinder engine, the first German V12 since the pre-war era, just to show it could rival Mercedes' best. Inside, there were things the average driver had never seen: self-diagnosing electronics, hidden airbags, even heated door locks for cold Bavarian mornings. Every detail whispered one message: BMW could do luxury without losing its soul. Then came the E31 8 Series. Sleek, low, and impossibly advanced. Pop-up headlights, computer-aided aerodynamics, multi-link rear suspension. It was a car from the next decade. But perfection has a price. The recession of the early 90s meant few could afford it, and the 8 Series quietly left the stage before it ever earned a profit. Still, it proved BMW's ambition. And while the spotlight hit the V12s, the engineers in Munich were refining something subtler, the E30 5 series. Balanced, precise, and beautifully built, it was the executive's dream with a racer's heart. Together, these cars defined late 80s BMW. Quiet power, obsessive detail, and the confidence of a brand ready to conquer the world.
The 90s began with momentum. The E36 3 Series didn't just replace the classic, it reinvented it. Smoother, lighter, more aerodynamic, everything about it felt new. Underneath, engineers built a platform designed for the computer age. Modular wiring, digital sensors, traction control that actually worked. It was the moment BMW learned to speak fluent technology. The E36 also marked BMW's first real step into global production. The Spartanburg plant opened in South Carolina in 1994, proved that the ultimate driving machine could be built on both sides of the Atlantic. The result? Sales exploded. The compact, the coupe, the convertible, everyone wanted a piece of it. Even the touring wagons were cool. The E36 became more than a car, it became an entry ticket to the brand. For many, it was their first BMW and the start of a lifelong obsession. But behind the showroom success, Munich had bigger ambitions. In 1994, BMW bought the Rover Group, a deal that shocked the industry. The plan looked brilliant on paper. Rover's compact car expertise and Land Rover's off-road technology could fill BMW's weak spots. Suddenly, BMW owned Mini, Rover and Land Rover, a small empire overnight. But integration was chaos. Different languages, different management styles, and factories that hadn't seen real investment in decades. Losses mounted, tension grew. Yet, even through failure, BMW learned. The lessons in scale, supplier networks and brand management would later fuel the rebirth of Mini, one of the most successful modern small cars ever built. Sometimes you have to stumble forward, and BMW did, smarter for the fall. While the boardroom dealt with numbers, the track told a different story. The E30 M3 had become a legend, the perfect balance of lightweight, grip and power. It wasn't just winning races, it was dominating them, from DTM to rally stages and endurance circuits across Europe. Crowds chanted, engines screamed, and BMW's M Division became the badge every driver wanted on their trunk. In an era of turbo experiments and electronic trickery, the M3 kept it pure. Naturally aspirated precision and old-school feel. It connected road cars to race cars in a way few brands could ever replicate. By the mid-90s, BMW wasn't just competing, it was the benchmark. And for fans around the world, that sound, the high-revving 4, became the heartbeat of the brand. As the 90s rolled on, BMW began to stretch beyond the familiar. It wasn't enough to build sedans and coupes. Munich wanted an empire. The X5 arrived in 1999, a sport utility vehicle built the BMW way. Unibody construction, independent suspension and handling that made off-roaders feel like trucks from another planet. The moment it hit the road, it rewrote the rulebook. Soon every rival was chasing BMW's formula. Meanwhile, down in South Carolina, something smaller was stealing the spotlight. The Z3 Roadster. Built in the US, styled for fun and made famous by James Bond, it gave BMW a taste of pop culture stardom. Then came the Z8, a halo car with movie star looks and supercar bones. A tribute to the classic 507 Roadster, powered by a 400 horsepower V8 and crafted largely by hand. It was nostalgia executed with modern precision. And just when it seemed BMW couldn't surprise anyone, the E36 M3 dropped. A screaming inline-6, razor-sharp chassis and looks that capture pure performance. For enthusiasts, this was perfection. The last analog M3 before the digital tide. From SUVs to roadsters, BMW had proven one thing. It could master any segment it entered without losing the essence of the ultimate driving machine. By the end of the decade, BMW had matured into a global design powerhouse. Its cars shared a common DNA: clean lines, balanced proportions, and understated confidence. The E30 5 Series defined executive elegance. Every surface was engineered for purpose. No excess, no gimmicks, just refined power under control. The E46 3 Series carried that same language into daily life. Nimble, comfortable, timeless. Drivers around the world discovered that you didn't need to be rich to feel connected behind the wheel. At the top sat the E38 7 Series. The car that quietly chauffeured world leaders while still capable of thrilling its driver. Together, these models made BMW the definitive choice for those who valued precision over flash. And as the company's presence expanded through Asia, North America and beyond, BMW's design language became a kind of global accent. Elegant, familiar, unmistakably German. The world finally agreed. BMW was the gold standard for luxury performance. But deep inside Munich's studios, something new was forming. A philosophy that would challenge everything the brand stood for. Change was coming. At the dawn of the new millennium, BMW's confidence was unshakable. And that's exactly when revolution struck. A new design chief arrived, Bangle. His ideas were bold,
sculptural, and polarizing. Flame surfacing, he called it. Curves and creases that broke every rule of German restraint. The first shockwave came with the E65 7 Series, unveiled in 2001. New shapes, new interfaces, and the birth of iDrive. Some called it genius, others a disaster. But no one could look away. BMW was stepping into the digital century, ready to redefine itself once again. On the next episode of Entire History of BMW, we enter the 2000s design revolution. At the turn of the millennium, BMW stood at its peak. Precision, power and prestige perfectly aligned. But success breeds pressure. What could possibly follow perfection? Inside Munich's studios, a quiet revolution began. Designers pushed boundaries, questioning every curve and line. Then came an American visionary, Chris Bangle, ready to challenge everything BMW once defined. This was the Millennium Shock. The entire history of BMW, Episode 4, the Millennium Shock. From controversy to innovation. When Chris Bangle joined BMW at the turn of the millennium, he didn't just change the look of the cars. He challenged the soul of the brand. For decades, BMW design had been evolutionary. One clean, purposeful line leading to the next. But Bangle saw stagnation creeping in. He believed design had to move the heart as much as the stopwatch. He called his new philosophy flame surfacing. Instead of flat, rigid panels, surfaces now twisted and float like light on water, reflections catching at every angle. To traditionalists it looked chaotic. To Bangle, it was alive. Then came the E65 7 Series in 2001, the first car to wear the new design language. It had layered bodywork, sculpted sides and a rear deck that rose abruptly from the trunk. Enthusiasts called it the Bangle butt. The nickname stuck and so did the controversy. BMW's most loyal fans were stunned. Internet forums, still new at the time, exploded with debate. Some saw brilliance, others betrayal. Even inside BMW, designers whispered about whether they'd gone too far. But while everyone argued about the styling, few noticed what else had changed. Underneath, the E65 carried a revolution of its own. The world's first iDrive system, replacing a maze of buttons with a single central controller. It was brilliant and infuriating. Owners spent days learning its menus, and yet it pointed toward the digital future every automaker would eventually copy. Bangle didn't stop there. His design principles spread through the entire lineup. 5 Series, 6 Series, even the tiny 1 Series. Each one shared the same sculpted tension, the same sense that motion didn't stop at the bodywork. It flowed through it. For many, this was BMW losing its mind. For others, it was BMW daring to evolve when everyone else played safe. And whether you loved it or hated it, one thing was certain. Everyone was talking about BMW again. By the mid-2000s, the Bangle look had gone from shock to strategy. What started on one car now defined the entire lineup. The E65 series arrived first, angular, technical, and unmistakably modern. Every crease had purpose, each curve a tension line sculpted by light. For drivers used to the clean form of the E39, it was like stepping into the future. A future with a learning curve. The new iDrive was still polarizing, but now it came wrapped in aluminum, soft leather and layered materials that felt half cockpit, half sculpture. BMW was teaching its customers to rethink what luxury meant in a driver's car. Then came the E63 6 Series. Low, wide, muscular. Flame surfacing found its rhythm here. The car looked like it was in motion even when parked. Some critics called it excessive. Enthusiasts called it bold. Today, many quietly admit it's aged far better than anyone expected. At the smaller end, the Z4 turned the design language into something playful, a modern twist on the classic roadster. Hard edges, long hood, short tail. Fans affectionately dubbed the coupe version Clown Shoe 2.0,
a nod to the earlier Z3M Coupe. What was once an insult had become a badge of pride. Proof BMW still had a sense of humor about itself. And while the internet debated styling, sales told another story. The world was buying in. The controversial BMW became the aspirational BMW again. Design had become emotion, and emotion was selling. BMW had weathered the storm, and now it was ready to remind everyone what it did best. Build machines for people who love to drive. If the early 2000s were about design shock, the mid-2000s were about reminding the world what BMW stood for: performance. The E30 M3 was the exclamation point. Under its hood sat one of the most outrageous engines ever fitted to a sedan. The S85, a 5-liter V10 inspired by BMW's Formula 1 program. It revved past 8,000 RPM, screamed like a race car, and made 500 horsepower in an era when that number still meant something. But the M3 was more than numbers. It embodied BMW's obsession with engineering purity and its willingness to challenge its own traditions. The SMG transmission was its biggest gamble, a single-clutch sequential gearbox that promised lightning-fast shifts, if you could live with the occasional jolt. Drivers either adored it or cursed it, sometimes both in the same drive. It became an enthusiast meme long before memes were even a thing. Still, when you found the rhythm, the M3 felt like nothing else, a family car with an F1 heart. Top Gear called it the most complete car in the world. The spirit carried into the E92 M3, the last of the naturally aspirated M cars. Its S65 V8 spun to 8,400 RPM. Smooth, raw, mechanical. It wasn't just an evolution, it was a celebration. A love letter to everything BMW had learned about balance and feedback. Meanwhile, M Division was diversifying. SUVs, coupes, convertibles, performance everywhere. And yet every M car shared the same DNA. High revving power, precision steering, and a chassis tuned for emotion, not numbers. By the late 2000s, even critics of the new styling had come around. They realized something essential. No matter how BMW looked, it still drove like a BMW. The shock of the new had given way to the sound of perfection. 10 cylinders, 8 throttles, and one unshakable truth. BMW's soul still lived at Redline. By the mid-2000s, BMW had redefined performance. Now it was ready to redefine prestige. The flagship 760 Li became the symbol of modern authority. A car that whispered power rather than shouted it. Every inch spoke of refinement. The polished V12 badge, soft closing doors, and that unmistakable night silhouette gliding through the city. Behind closed doors, CEO Norbert Reithofer pushed the company toward a clear goal: intelligent luxury. Performance would always matter, but the next frontier was efficiency through technology. The E70 X5 marked that change. Bigger, smarter, more capable, it wasn't just an SUV. It was the moment BMW embraced the global shift toward versatility. It balanced muscle with precision. The same DNA, just dressed for the modern world. Then came the E71 X6, a bold crossover that confused critics and thrilled drivers. Part sports car, part SUV. It looked impossible on paper, but perfectly BMW in execution. This was design thinking as a statement. Daring, polarizing, and unforgettable. As the lineup expanded, BMW sharpened its image. The brand campaign spoke of joy, innovation, and driving as an art form. And when the F017 series arrived, it carried all of that philosophy. Hand-finished leather, ambient lighting, gesture controls before anyone else. Luxury had become intelligent. Together, the 760 Li, X6 and F01 formed a new kind of trinity: performance, prestige, and progress. Each spoke a different dialect of the same language: modern BMW. But even as the spotlight shone on V12s and V8s, engineers in quiet labs were asking another question: what if power could be silent? That question took form as the first I concepts, sleek studies in carbon fiber and electric efficiency. BMW was still the ultimate driving machine. But what driving meant
was about to change forever. By the end of the 2000s, BMW had conquered nearly every segment. Sedans, coupes, SUVs, even luxury limousines. But the next challenge wasn't competition. It was the future itself. Global regulations were tightening. Emissions targets loomed. BMW engineers began to wonder, what if the answer to performance wasn't more cylinders, but smarter materials, cleaner power and lighter weight? That question sparked an experiment called Project I, a skunkworks operation hidden deep within BMW's development labs. Its goal? To build the most advanced electric vehicles in the world without losing the DNA that made a BMW feel alive. The result was the BMW i3, a city car unlike anything before it. Its body was built from CFRP, a carbon fiber reinforced plastic normally reserved for race cars. The structure was light, rigid and recyclable. Its design? Minimalist, almost alien. Tall windows, exposed weave, recycled materials. Critics didn't know what to make of it, but owners loved its honesty. Sustainable engineering done with precision. Then came the i8, a futuristic hybrid supercar that looked like a concept brought to life. Butterfly doors, laser headlights, a 3-cylinder turbo paired with electric motors. It wasn't just fast, it was efficient, exotic and shockingly usable. For the first time, eco and excitement shared the same badge. Both cars were assembled in Leipzig at a factory powered by wind turbines and designed for zero-waste production. This was more than marketing, it was proof that sustainability could be engineered, not just promised. To enthusiasts, the i3 and i8 were confusing at first. Too quiet, too digital, too different. But years later, many would look back and realize these were the cars that predicted everything. BMW wasn't just building cars anymore, it was building possibility. The I wasn't just a new letter, it was the spark that would define the next generation. The story of BMW's future began quietly, not with a roar, but with a hum. Electric power had proven its potential, and by the mid-2010s, the company was ready to turn experimentation into evolution. The ideas born from the i3 and i8 were no longer side projects. They became the foundation of a new generation. I-performance models arrived first, bridging the old world and the new, combustion and current side by side. Then came the i4, iX and i7, cars that showed how far the technology had matured. Instant torque, silent acceleration and the same rear-biased balance that defined BMW for decades. Electric didn't mean soulless, it meant different. The challenge was no longer sound, it was feeling. Inside, digital displays replaced analog dials. Artificial intelligence learned habits, adjusted lighting, curated music. Driving became as much about experience as mechanics. For purists, it was disorienting. For newcomers, it was mesmerizing. BMW wasn't abandoning emotion, it was translating it into code. Meanwhile, design had entered its next chapter. Concepts like the Vision Neue Klasse previewed a future where simplicity and sculpture met technology. Classic proportions, clean surfaces, electric hearts. The same philosophy that once split opinions in the Bangle era now guided the digital age. Under the skin, sustainability became the new performance. Factories powered by green energy. Materials recycled, reused, reimagined. Efficiency wasn't a checkbox, it was the new engineering frontier. As BMW celebrated its centenary, it looked back on a century of reinvention, from aircraft engines to electric icons. Few companies had risked so much, argued so often, or evolved so completely. And yet, the journey is still unfinished. Because in Munich, the same question echoes once again. What comes next? Next time, we'll explore the dawn of a new era, the rise of digital design, artificial intelligence, and the cars that will carry BMW into its next 100 years. In the quiet years after the millennium, BMW engineers began chasing a new kind of performance. One measured not by horsepower, but by harmony. In carbon fiber labs and digital mock-ups, they imagined a future where power could flow without noise, and precision could coexist with purity. It was here that the first sparks of BMW I were born. A division built to question every assumption and to prove that innovation itself could move the world forward. The entire history of BMW, Episode 5. The Charge Ahead. From electric dreams to revolution realized, the I division became the living laboratory of a brand reinventing itself. The compact i3 redefined what urban movement could be. Light, sustainable, and unmistakably BMW. Its carbon chassis, sculpted from innovation, made efficiency feel elegant. And then came the i8, a car that didn't follow the supercar formula, it rewrote it. A hybrid masterpiece merging technology and emotion. Every element served a purpose. The aerodynamics, the layered design, the glowing blue accents that hinted at energy beneath the surface. Battery development and lightweight engineering advanced side by side, bringing new meaning to performance. Inside, simplicity replaced spectacle, a calm space shaped by open materials and digital clarity. Through I, BMW proved that heritage and progress weren't opposites, but partners. Two forces driving the same journey toward the future of motion. In the late 2010s, BMW turned its focus from horsepower to human experience. Inside every model, the dashboard transformed. Curved displays flowed into a single digital horizon designed entirely around the driver. Gesture control and voice recognition became second nature. Simple, intuitive, and precise. The cluster, heads-up display, and ambient light worked together like instruments in one quiet orchestra. At night, prototypes of the future glided through cities with a soft electric glow. Factories evolved too. Robot arms installing digital modules with a precision no craftsman could match. The new luxury wasn't louder, it was smarter. BMW's connected ecosystem linked phone, cloud and car into one continuous interface. Updates arrived over the air, keeping each machine fresh and responsive. Inside, touchpoints still mattered. Crystal gear levers, brushed aluminum, warm wood. Tangible craft balanced the screen's glow. Assisted driving joined the experience. Lane centering, adaptive cruising, intelligence that learned its driver's rhythm. Design studios blended clay, code and light to merge art with technology. The result wasn't just a cabin, it was a digital cocoon built for the human behind the wheel. And as that cocoon dissolves into the next frame, the era of pure electric performance begins to rise. The 2020s arrived, and BMW's electric vision stepped firmly onto the streets. The i4 was more than a concept fulfilled. It was an EV shaped by a century of performance DNA. Its lines echoed heritage, but its heartbeat was pure current. In dawn's reflection, the i4 glides through glass-lined boulevards, silent, confident, unmistakably BMW. Each motion powered by precision motors and a perfectly balanced chassis. Inside, the cabin merges simplicity with warmth. Curved displays, minimal buttons, every surface alive with light and intent. Then came the iX, BMW's electric flagship, a machine built not just to move, but to redefine presence. High in the mountains, it carries its weight like sculpture in motion, its shy-tech surfaces hiding complexity behind calm design. Even the smallest gestures matter: a glowing badge, a taillight that breathes awake, the subtle hum of e-motors on a still morning. On the assembly floor, robotics choreograph the dance. Motors spin, batteries lock into place, precision becomes poetry. And as the i7 rolled silently into a world of marble lobbies and city lights, luxury meets sustainability. Passengers recline in theater-lit comfort, surrounded by craftsmanship and code. From the charging stations at sunset to the headlights tracing night circuits, every detail declares a new kind of performance. Quiet, confident, electric. This isn't the end of BMW's story. It's the moment the future finally takes its form. In 2023, BMW unveiled its next chapter, the Vision Neue Klasse. A name that once marked a rebirth in the 1960s now returns to define an entirely new era. The concept appears first as a sketch, bold lines traced in light, a silhouette drawn from memory and future at once. In the studio, under bright white light, the Neue Klasse reveals a form stripped of excess. Clean surfaces, narrow light bars, the classic double kidney reimagined as pure illumination. Inside, the panoramic vision display stretches across the entire windshield, blending augmented navigation, environment and art into one seamless canvas. Human and machine finally speak the same design language. Every texture tells the same story. Recycled aluminum, sustainable textiles, materials that look forward instead of back. In this future, performance isn't just measured in speed, but in conscience. Behind the scenes, robots and designers move in harmony, digital tools shaping a physical future. The Neue Klasse isn't just a car, it's a blueprint for the next 100 years of mobility. As the lights fade, its reflection lingers, a glimpse of what's coming and a reminder of what's always driven BMW: innovation with purpose. A century of engineering, a lifetime of reinvention. The vision of BMW has always started with motion, from the whir of early aircraft engines to the hum of silent electric power. Each generation built upon the one before, shaping what we drive and how we feel behind the wheel. In every era, hands and minds work together. Human precision beside robotic accuracy, crafting machines that connect art and science. From the R32 to the 2002, the E30 M3 to the i8, each symbol carried forward a single idea, that driving can be emotional, intelligent and alive. Now, the Neue Klasse stands beside its ancestors, not as a replacement, but as a continuation. The same DNA renewed for a new century. Across the world, BMW showrooms light up the night. The roundel evolves again, its blue and white glow a promise. The future is here, and it's still built on motion, precision and passion. Next time on The Entire History, we move across the globe to dive into another historic car brand. Like and subscribe, you don't want to miss this.